Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 72 of Blown Speakers. I'm your host, Dave Hoenigman, coming in from Yokohama, Japan, and joining us from Chicago, who you may remember from the Fleetwood Mac Rumors episode, right? The Likes, Chris and Jessica Lyke. Welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks for having us back again.
Absolutely. And so you guys chose the album, or you chose the band. I kind of pushed you toward this album, right?
Smart to push for.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
But why? Why did you guys want to talk about Car Seat Headrest?
It was your idea.
Yeah.
I think, how did the thought come out?
I don't think I have a favorite band. In the last couple of years, his records have really kind of done it for me. I think we don't get into why yet, but I really enjoy his music, I guess.
Yeah.
I say his because it's the guy, right?
Yeah.
So what made you think to suggest it for the podcast?
I was thinking I hadn't heard them on Dave's show.
Okay.
Yeah. Now,
That's something that I listen to all the time.
Right.
but
They do
just
have a following in Japan, but not anything that's come across your door.
no. So I hadn't heard of them until you guys mentioned them. So, or at least I hadn't explored them. So, yeah. Thanks for turning me on. Yeah, I especially enjoy this album. But so I guess Will Toledo. I just want to give a quick kind of history. So he made like 5 albums that he just put out on Bandcamp, right? When he was like 11. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe 10. Yeah.
Okay. And now, are you guys fans of all that stuff too, or?
No, but what they did was, so he had done that. He started writing, I think, in high school, and then got a couple of other people together, I think, at school. He went to William and Mary in Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And so, but, at this point he's in college and he's got 5, 6, 7 records underneath his belt or whatever, the releases that he had put out into the internet. And I don't know this part, but I'm assuming enough like buzz, enough whatever favorable reviews wound up getting him signed on Matador. And so that was in 2015. And the first thing they did was allow him to re-record some of these, digital things that he had done. And he'll say in interviews, like, I put those out there because I wanted them to be out. They weren't done. This wasn't something that I thought was like a finished product, but I was writing the song. The song was good enough to at least let other people hear it. So I put it out. But I never thought these were the finished versions of these songs. So Matador let him re-record like his favorites, I guess, from all those years that he'd already been releasing things online. And that's Teens of Style, the record that came out before this one. Basically, Matador is like, here comes the Beatles, or like whatever, like meet the Beatles or whatever.
Right.
So then he would, and this is a different record, I think, because it's a little more produced. An outside producer, all of his other records he'd produced. Obviously, he was doing them in his bedroom, but they brought in an outside producer for this record, which was the first time that had happened. And so this was then the first new material that he released under Matador. Yeah.
With a band, right?
But yeah, kind of. I think at this point, I mean, obviously he's recording with a band, but he's not writing with a band at this point.
I don't think so.
No. I don't think until like a couple of years ago, he started actually writing as a band. Yeah. Because the drummer, who I think came on at about this time, was big into electric EDM music. And they actually have a side project that's EDM music. And the drummer then started to influence the songwriting. And I think then he welcomed him in a little bit more. Up until then, it had just
changed a little bit.
Just him. Yeah, for sure.
But in this record,
it's just him. And rock and roll and this guy, with other people playing instruments, but this is his thing. It's Bob Pollard, obviously. Look at the picture.
It does remind me of that. Yeah, just to talk people in, right? Car Seat Headrest. The album is Teens of Denial, 2016, right? And as I mentioned, I wore the Cavs championship 2016 shirt today, since we're talking about 2016. Um, like what I just wanted to say about this in general, like, I mean, it's it's about young people, right? The young person lifestyle, but there's so many albums about high school, or at least like ones you can instantly think of, like Bat Out of Hell, or The Hold Steady did a kind of a high school album. But for me personally, I mean, I think my university years were more, more of a big deal for me, more developmental for me than high school, right?
Dave, we did them together, and you're absolutely right. We grew those 4 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's cool that he's focusing more on that time,
Yeah. And it's so visceral. The way he writes it is very, like, you see yourself in there. There's a lot of, I mean, he's obviously, I think he's struggling with like these drugs, this alcohol. I don't think it's doing me any good. Like, I think it's doing me a lot of harm, and I see the people around me. It's a lot of sort of stumbling through. There's a lot of references to stumbling through being intoxicated.
I think intoxication is about being a child. Like, it's about, he's looking at adulthood and being a grown up and being like, oh shit.
I think too, though, it's about the choice to blur that, the choice to mute it. I'm choosing to get drunk. I'm choosing to get high. It's blurring my reality.
So you don't have to deal with that.
No, I don't even know if he's worried about dealing with it. I think it's almost like it's afraid, like I'm afraid. And so I do these drugs and this alcohol to put a wall there, to put like a mesh Vaseline, like wall between me and reality, because reality is kind of scary and it hurts sometimes. And
one of the songs, his dad comes in and starts talking to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Dave? You remember? Do you hear the song there where
the father shows up? Yeah, that's weird. Like, I'm guessing he's just saying symbolically he's thinking about his, or do you envision the father coming to the party?
I was listening to it all week, but this morning listened to that song, and we have teenagers at the house, and I stopped thinking of music from the point of
the singer,
the narrator, and then when he starts talking about the dad coming, like, oh shit, am I gonna have to come walk in and save one of the kids from this existential crisis and becoming an adult? So I know I did not actually envision the dad walking in. I just kind of think it was his responsibility looking down on him, like, oh crap, we've all had that happen, right?
So it's like his dad just crossing his mind at that time.
Yeah. I said 20s, but it could also be in your 40s. Oh, okay.
But I feel like there's this sense of duty throughout it, though, too. Like, Jes, what you were saying, he's choosing to do this to blur everything. But I think there's also this feeling like, no, we're young people, so this is what we do.
Yeah.
Like, we don't, this is what we're expected to do. We don't even question it. We're all here again. He says, that guy I kind of hate is here. Like, it's just like, you're just hanging out with people, just as almost this form of discipline. You're hanging out with people and getting wasted, and just again and again. And
an aside to the guy kind of hates you.
Yeah.
And he's talking to his mother too in the song, the hippie style song or something. I was destroyed by
destroyed by hippie powers. Yeah.
Powers,
because he like talks about the Beach Boys and how like it didn't work out.
Right.
Yeah,
except it's all in his music.
Right. Yeah. No, there's definitely like the parental gaze for sure.
I hate his really funny.
Yeah.
I heard that today.
Yeah. No, he talks about when he's like, I did mushrooms and acid last night, and I was supposed to feel enlightened, and I just felt like I was a walking piece of shit, and I was wearing a really stupid looking jacket.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you see yourself and you don't like what you see.
Yeah.
Oof.
But that's like that sense of duty, right? So I did the mushrooms because I'm 21 and this is what I'm expected to do, and right. And
and the title of the record, Teens of Denial. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How is he writing this so young? you know, I mean,
Yeah. I didn't read his biography. Do you know anything about, did you find out like what his parents did or how he was?
Oh, I think he's an only child, right? And his parents encouraged music on him. But yeah, I forget the
Any of the rest, yeah.
yeah.
William and Mary, so that says something.
But that could be 100, you know, that's 1,000 people. There's like every now and again, there's a person that can write things from the point of view of from back here.
Yeah.
Instead of like, I'm really mad at you, girlfriend. He's back
looking
here,
at it from above. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He's Batman circling Gotham City, for sure. For sure.
Let's take a look at the guy we're talking about. Well, this is the back cover, right? Yeah. Is this the back cover of your vinyl you got there?
Yeah. It's a real D5 looking photo, isn't
it? Yeah. He looks like a sweat hog there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Some sort of Barbarino.
Yeah. Horse shack.
No. He looks like the nerdy guy in Christine. Remember the car movie?
Yeah, sure.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
No. Will Toledo, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Young fella.
So he's not trying to look cool here on the back of this, debut album of
I don't know.
Matador. No. Well, debut album of new material, I guess we should say.
Yeah.
On Matador. But I've heard that, yeah, he's just very like self-deprecating in interviews and whatnot. So I mean, I guess he's kind of like that. But
yeah, reading interviews to get ready for this, I didn't get self-deprecating. I got like a little, he could be like, well, I'd like to see all the points of view, but, and then very strongly opinionated about his art and his, like
he's self-assured.
Yeah, very self-assured. Yeah.
That's good.
I don't know.
He should be.
Yeah.
And we saw them play like a couple of times, but we saw them about a month ago on this latest record or tour, and he's owning the whole thing. He's not kind of like shy guy, and he never was.
No, we seen them play early. We saw them play for this record. I saw them at Pitchfork.
But it was like a rock and roll show, guitar.
You know what? I did see 2016. Yeah. You saw 2017 at Lollapalooza. The year before, I saw them at Pitchfork. And they played on Friday at 3 p.m. So it's like the throwaways. You know what I mean? Well, it's also like the throwaways. Like nobody's showing up. Yeah. Well, no, they were amazing. But
was that when you did the Odyssey back from?
Yes. Yeah. It was just a guy fronting a band. What we saw a month ago was like an art project, like an art installation.
5 years later, it was this really
like you said, he's very much taking control over the experience. Yeah, it's cool.
He wasn't just riding it; he was like driving.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you think he's going to be around for a long time? You're saying?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, you're around until you have a bad record or two, but he hasn't done that yet.
He's still pretty young.
He's only 29 or 30.
Yeah, he's 29. I looked that up.
On the record put out this in 2020 is the more electronic record, which is what they're touring on now, I guess. I'm sure he's preparing something else, but and that was a departure. He'd been making rock music, and it was like, well, no, I got this drummer that's into this other thing, and now we're going to try this, and so he says, I want to challenge it. I don't want to just write it out. I don't want to just tour on my hits. I want to keep doing something a little different, and they'll like it or they won't. Yeah. But you're right. Then you don't necessarily get afforded the same opportunities if they
don't. Well, it was packed.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
For 2 nights at the Vic.
At the Vic. Okay. Wow.
We used to go see those shows at the was it Dazed and Confused? What did we go
see?
View. The Bruin View. Yeah. Back in the day. Did you ever go to that with us?
No, I remember hearing about it, but I don't think I ever went.
For like Willy Wonka, or something like that. And you could drink and smoke.
So from my Chicago days, I especially remember Lounge Acts and Empty Bottle.
Lounge Acts is no more.
Metro. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Bummer. That was a great club. I loved that club. Now it's essentially Lincoln Hall, which is a bigger one. But Empty Bottle's still there, still the same, still great shows.
You guys said you thought we should play fill in the blank, right? To give people a taste. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me play an excerpt from that. Just a moment. Okay, this is the opening track, right? Fill in the blank. I'll play about half of it. Let's check it out. Yeah. Yeah, so why'd you choose that track? That's the opening track of the album, right?
Well, that's a great line in the chorus, but I think even beyond that, his voice is so it's really naked. I mean, he doubles it. It sounds really cool, but track, but it can be kind of fucked up on purpose. And it's really great.
Yeah.
Vulnerable. There's vulnerability.
Mm.
You know?
But not weak. Like it's not weak
No,
somehow.
yeah.
Somehow he's vulnerable but
Yeah.
strong at the same time.
Absolutely. That's really
Quite a
good
feat.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the thing he does.
And the whole record sounds like.
Yeah. I like the thing he does lyrically with like starting a phrase and finishing it, and then starting it again and finishing it slightly different. And stuff,
Yeah.
You know, he does it a lot. He does it several
Tricky.
times in this
Yeah.
song. It's good. Yeah. It's cool, and it builds. And the right where we cut out of the song, he's like says, so I ask something, the cops, and they say get the fuck out, and then I ask the audience, and they say get the fuck out, and then I ask God. And he says, "Get the fuck out." I like it.
It's pretty sophisticated.
It is. It's not just a Teen Angst song. Like he's doing more. I love it, and it does remind me of Guided by Voices. And he obviously is a fan, and he's covered Smothered in Hugs, and it says my records are influenced by this. Like I didn't know him in high school, whatever. But I think
it's not just that. I mean, he's his own guy for sure.
He's definitely his own
There's
guy.
a lot of other stuff. What do you think, Dave? What are you hearing in there besides him?
Well, I mean, if you're saying he's his own guy, I mean, it's pretty different from Guided by Voices. Really. I mean, the songs are much longer and the lyrics are not as just flipped out surrealism, right? So, I mean, I don't think I even would have thought of Guided by Voices. Actually.
Yeah,
I totally do.
melodically, I think. But sure.
Yeah.
What about the Kinks? Do you hear that in there and all?
Kinks, the Replacements a bit, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when it gets aggressive, it sounds like Fugazi, right? But then it's like, but they're singing about girls and drinking. It's not Fugazi, right?
Yeah.
And
that's a really good point.
So
it's recorded really well too. I love how this record's recorded. Not a lot. It's just like they mic the amps and the drums, and they just let it kind of breathe, and it's really dynamic from the playing.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. Well, and there's the hold back release that happens
A lot.
Yeah.
I guess it's a bad question because you remind you of.
But what do you guys think makes it different from the generation before? I mean, like so it came out in 2016 and not 96. What do you think makes it different from that?
Because it's definitely birthed from that, right?
Yeah.
Right, but the references are personal, right? Like he's drawing from personal experience almost exclusively.
He was probably born in 1990 or something.
Yeah, whereas I think, I don't know, other bands might have been more compelled to.
He's not aping it.
No. But like he's not referring literature or like other things necessarily.
What do you think, Dave? Do you have an opinion on that?
No. I think it's a interesting question. I think the 90s. Well, I think my own question was very interesting. No, I mean the 90s lyrics. When you think about GBV, Pixies, Neutral Milk Hotel. I mean everything was very surreal, right?
Right. Yeah.
And this is like influenced, which is awesome,
It's kind of
this is influenced by it musically, but kind of not lyrically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And that is the difference in this kind of music, right? You've got your Phoebe Bridgers and your Conor Oberst and all these people who are talking about themselves, period. Period. And they're having deep thoughts and they're thinking about sort of their place globally and in the culture, but like it's a reference point of one, you know, and maybe there were more reference points at that point in time in the 90s.
Or
The surrealism, you know?
Yeah.
I totally see that.
And yeah, I do feel a bit of replacements, you know, like lyrically. And sometimes vocals, I feel it's more tied in with like the 70s, like rock radio we grew up with more than punk vocals. Or I'm at times, right? At times it's clearly punk. Or
he says a lot of his records, he grew up driving around with his dad and he'd listen to that music you're talking about. Yeah, exactly. And so that clearly influenced him, and he says so, you know, but then he liked how Guided by Voices and
well, you get a good chorus if you grew up listening to Boston.
Right. I
mean,
but he liked what Bob Pollard then, who also listened to that music, obviously, because he's probably his dad's age, turned around and did with that and modernized it. Now this is his take on that, like the influence of the influence, and now this is what I'm doing with it. You can hear it all thread through. The Beach Boys are there for sure. He does a lot of like harmonies, and
I sometimes hear a lot of like late 70s like Wire and post-punk stuff in like Vincent, you know. I hear a lot of that in there too. Kind of sparse, you know, angular, pokey.
Wait, so how'd you guys first hear of this artist, Car Seat Headrest?
I was going to Pitchfork with a friend from work who said, let's try to get there in time for this band. And I hadn't heard of them, and I caught the last few songs and they were awesome. Like they were this record, and it was just like, I have not seen kids do this. You know, we have a pretty, especially at that time, we had a pretty good young person music scene happening in Chicago. Twin Peaks and the Orals, you know, all that stuff was Whitney. And so you were watching these young kids do really good, interesting things. I had not seen anybody do this yet. I'd seen them ape the Stones. We'd seen them ape sort of that more like 70s yacht rock thing. But this was felt like something new, reminiscent of things that I knew, but like this is its own thing here. Which is, you know, nice when you see the younger kids doing it. You see them doing it right in front of your face.
As good as anybody.
So then they were on our radar, and when they came around the next year, they played at Lollapalooza, which is an upgrade from Pitchfork. And Lollapalooza has the
for them, not for us going.
Well, no, Pitchfork's more fun. But
we can walk to.
No. A million people go to Lollapalooza. So Lollapalooza has like after hour shows, because the contract that these people have to sign when they do Lollapalooza is we won't play for 6 months anywhere near here. Like within 600 miles of here, we won't play. So that it's a draw that they're on the ticket, right? So the way they get around that then is if you don't get to see them at Lollapalooza, they have these after shows that don't start until midnight. That's really hard. So hard to get to a midnight show. Like during the weekend of Lollapalooza. So that year we also saw them the night before they played at Lollapalooza at a smaller club. Awesome. Like a great way to see them.
Where was it?
I think it was Lincoln Hall. I think it was Lincoln Hall. Yeah. So then we've just kind of kept them on our radar this whole time, and he keeps putting stuff out. So
I saw a clip from that Pitchfork show. Them doing Unforgiving Girl. Yeah, it's it looked like I mean, it was a great performance. It looked like the crowd was into it. So maybe you're in that video, Jess. You should check it out.
I might be.
You always scoot up to the front, so you're probably
sometimes not as much anymore. I like the old man seats. I don't know about you. Did you get to go to shows much?
Not the last couple years.
Okay. So a lot of these places have the upper balcony.
Yeah.
Where the kids don't want to sit. The young people want to be down on the floor. Those are the house. You can get right on the side of the stage. and nobody's bothering you, nobody's touching you. You can just listen to the music and watch the band.
Bar's right there.
Yeah, the bar's 4 feet away. It's the old lady seats, and they're the way to go at 50. Working on. Yeah. But they probably will come through Japan once you guys start having concerts again.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, it's the kind of stuff there's a market for. So the band's been together for a while though, right? So this is the year that album came out, right? 2016.
It's a lefty guitar.
South by Southwest, right? But I looked on the latest album. Okay, well here's they're some of their official releases, right? So before this, there's a bunch of Bandcamp stuff.
Yeah.
That's just numbered like 1 to 5, or at least one series of albums is just number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. Okay, but I guess these 4 are considered among their well, it's their Matador stuff at least, right?
Right, and so the only 2 original records are Teens of Denial and Making a Door Less Open.
Okay.
The other 2 are re-recordings of other songs. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one is Bodies on Twin Fantasy?
No, Bodies is on Teens.
I think with Twin Fantasy too, it was so originally released in 2011, but then Matador redid it and put it back out in 2018.
Well, they let him redo it. He says that was one of the first things he negotiated with them was, I'm going to want to do this with the band. I'm going to want to do these songs for real. Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, that means I think the same 4 guys, or Will and the same 3 guys have been on Teens of Denial, then the re-recording of Twin Fantasy, and I did check that it's the same guys on the most recent album. So the band, these 4 guys have been together now for 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Or 7 years. So let's see, the guitarist is Ethan Ives.
Yeah.
Right? And he, I think he does a lot of the background vocal work from what I've seen, right? Live clips I've watched. And he seems to be a metalhead. He wore a Death Angel t-shirt on Jimmy Fallon. That was one of my bands in high school, Death Angel. Let's see. So there you go. Will Toledo, the front man. The drummer is Andrew Katz, right? And the bassist is Seth Dalby, right?
Right.
Crazy bass lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. The drummer is the one who's got the EDM background, and then him and Will have a side project. I can't remember the name, something one, but it's like a EDM side project. Okay. Yeah, which I don't know that I've listened to. Danger Trait 1, something like that. I don't know. But you can see the influence on the last record,
for sure.
The Through a Door Less Open.
So you guys like that album? I haven't heard it. Making a Door Less Open. It's good?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's different.
We just saw the show. It was great.
Yeah, it was really good. Live, it was great.
So you say the show is more sophisticated. So what do you mean exactly?
Sophisticated might be a bad word. It's a terrible word. They were more of like a straight up rock band, right?
All right.
And it was really good full sound. It was fantastic. And he was putting on more of a show this time. He was wearing like a hazmat suit and a gas mask, and he wasn't playing guitar. He was just the other guitarist. And the mask had lights that corresponded with the eyes with the screen behind them. It was really cool. It was more of a performance type of thing.
Yeah.
But all the little lights, like his eyes would on a song, like
they'd be hearts or they'd be a smiley face,
it would match up
or
with
X's.
the lyrics, you know.
Yeah.
It was great. I'm not saying it wasn't. It was amazing, and it wasn't. It wasn't like it was a put on. It was for real, but it was different than before.
You said you thought it was thinner.
It was thinner.
Yeah. I loved it. You were less. Yeah.
Audibly, it was thinner.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
And not in power. I mean, it sounded better.
Well, there's only one guitar.
It was a guitar. He was it didn't sound as punchy, but it was more cool looking.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It was great.
So he wears the gas mask like the entire show?
The entire thing.
Really? Wow.
Whole gas mask with this electric piece on it, but then the hazmat suit comes off in pieces.
Oh yeah.
Right? He ended up in shorts.
T-shirt and shorts.
Yeah. He was a never nude.
Yeah, he was never nude. Right.
So I don't know. I thought it was really cool.
He must have a mic inside the thing.
Yeah.
It was pretty clear still.
Yeah.
And he kind of bopped around.
Mm.
He was a robot singer.
I mean, it sounds like he's pushing the envelope, right? He's not just
Yeah, because he could have gone up there again with the same old band, like I
Right.
said, and been another rocket. I like it. He's evolving. So is it more sophisticated? I don't know. He's just evolving.
It's different. He's different. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to play a bit of track 8, Unforgiving Girl. She's not Anne. Because I think he works through, or they work through an interesting mix of influences, kind of just one after another in the middle of this song. I think is kind of cool. So let's check it out.
Gonna say this once. I just need to make something. Just need to make sure of something. And I feel like we both know it. I just want to ask. You're dancing, right? This is dancing. Everyone has to live with themselves, and you're not the only one who's been through hell. So give me a sign that I'm not making love to myself. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. She's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. It's an unforgiving world. But she's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. It's an unforgiving world. But she's not an unforgiving girl. It's an unforgiving world. But she's not unforgiving. It's an unforgiving world. That's it. I like that one.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Mm.
I like this guy.
Yeah.
Whey protein guy.
Yeah, so like I hear a lot of like 70s radio rock in there. Like I wouldn't even know who to say. So you said Boston, right? But I think I know what you mean.
I said Boston twice, and I don't hear it at all in there.
Yeah. But it has that feeling like when you'd hear like some old like live Jay Giles or something like on classic rock, you know.
Yeah.
But it's also has all these great, you know, punk and indie stuff you could feel, right? In the Jonathan
like
Richman tribute.
He's heard and put it through the lens of it. It was like a big funnel of all this music, and he's able to call it up on these songs. It's really simple, you know.
Yeah.
Like seamlessly, like we're left scratching our head to figure out, like, okay, that sounds familiar. It reminds me of something, but I can't place it.
Figured it out.
And he also kind of can ride a groove for a long time and have it change like a wave as it's going. You know, one little addition comes in, and the back of the vocal's gonna, another guitar comes in, kind of just builds and builds and builds and builds, and then, you know, and the voices get more chaotic and more yelly and less intense. It's really great.
Yeah.
Cathartic. Yeah.
Okay, so off camera, we just had this amazing conversation about how it was unrecorded, how certain artists have the power to make you feel nostalgic for something you weren't even around for. And I recently watched Richard Linklater's new movie, Apollo 10.5, which takes place in 1969, you know, before I was born, in Houston, Texas, which is not where I grew up. But I could feel this, a lot of what I saw of the boy's childhood reminded me of my own childhood. A lot of it was still in place, like playing kickball, you know, on the playground, and playing Red Rover and things like this, and pretending to be asleep in the car so that one of your parents would carry you in, like stuff, you know, stuff like that, right? Yeah. So even though, like, you know,
10 years later, 12 years later, it was,
10 years later, a lot of it was still so there are certain, like, as much as things change from decade to decade, I think there are some things that kind of, at least for a while, okay, like it talked about how central TV was to their lives in the late 60s. Same thing for us, right? All the way up until, I don't know, the internet destroyed everything. But
gather around together, and sure.
So like this kind of I don't know, cultural bleeding over, right? That like certain things stay in place for a long time. So do you think that's what we're experiencing? How we could listen to this Teens of Denial, even though it's, you know, 20 years, the guy's 20 years younger than us, and he's writing about his experiences in his late teens, early 20s, but we could totally connect to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think things change, they stay the same. You know, he's in his 20s and we were all there. We were in our 20s. So that time of life, that am I grown up? Am I a kid? I've got to figure this out for myself. Like, and it's not going well. Like, you know, all of that, I think he's nailing so well.
Because it's true.
Well, it's true, right?
He's not lying.
He's found a way to tell
what honestly happens when you're that age, in that temperament, in that kind of crew.
Right.
And when you're that age, you think your crew is the only crew like that. But it isn't.
Right.
You know, there are other iterations of it, but like what he's saying is honest, and so that's why it resonates. Probably if you were 90 years old and could remember back to your friends in the 30s, you'll do the math, whatever that would have been, it would sound the same. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
And he would get fondness and nostalgia for being 21 years old and going through all the things that he is in this record.
He's decoding it though in a way that I don't think he would have been able to in the moment, or I would have been able to in the moment.
Yeah,
when I was,
not.
I don't know, maybe not, because he wrote these songs later, you know. Okay. So like, I think there's some hindsight there. You know, it does sound like it's happening right then and there, and maybe it is. Maybe it is, but he definitely seems to have like this wisdom about looking at it and putting it in place and putting it in perspective. And what does it mean? And what does it mean about who I am? And what does it mean about the world around me? And what does it mean about what I thought the world was like? But then it's actually turning out to be different and not as good as I thought it was. Like, and me, I thought I was going to be different, and I'm not as good as I thought I was going to be. That all feels older. It feels like perspective you get later. And either he had it early, but either way, it's easier to relate to it than if he were some dumb kid writing about doing, like you said, there's a lot of musicians that write about getting high and drunk in high school, and it just sounds childish. There's less perspective there.
Why weren't you dating me?
Yeah. And this is different. He's writing about the same experiences, but from a very different viewpoint. Yeah. More philosophical. What does it mean that I'm doing this?
And I think with every, this is some highfalutin, but any art that's true transcends whatever time it is, whatever kind of medium it is. If it's real, you're like, oh, I totally understand what it could happen in the 10th century, or it could happen tomorrow. But it's immediate because it's
cutting to the quick.
True to what human beings do.
Yeah.
And he's doing it.
I don't know. Do you think one reason he's able to write deeper than, or think deeper than we would have been in our early 20s is because he had the chance to absorb and digest all that great 90s rock?
Had to be. I don't know how else one could do it.
It definitely informs the chord changes and the power that happens in it. But I don't know.
So that's the advantage he had over that he was able. Like I always thought when the internet takes off and all these young songwriters are going to have unlimited access to all these different influences. Like I thought we were just going to be all these like super kids were going to come out that are just totally hip to everything because they never had to search for it. They've always just had it there and they could just binge on it and absorb it and be, but it's still kind of rare, right? To see.
The thing that takes over is this like self-absorption. I think you have this box that can show you anything and you spend time looking into it and taking pictures of yourself and talking about yourself in various platforms and looking at other
light. You see your own face.
And then also looking at other people who are doing the same thing, not looking back at the Renaissance, not looking into like what are black holes. Like we have this thing and we're not using it in the way that I think would lead to exactly what you're talking about, this explosion of blues and like South African whatever, like it all can come together. No, it's just like pictures of me.
It's really interesting.
And then what does it say about us as people?
Well, I mean, Dave, we both day job, we teach, and I have students that, I mean, they don't understand any kind of moment in kind of places in history or in kind of theme. Rarely, out of 100 kids, 5 of them are like, oh, that was this book by this guy at this time,
or this century, or this,
whatever you name it is. They don't understand geography or.
So here's my question for you guys. So I think
it's less
right, but we have the thing that would ideally allow us to do this. Is it a flaw of human nature that we're not as evolved as we'd like to think we are, that we're not using it to its full advantage, or is it a victory of marketing? Like, do we think that the marketers got so far ahead of us that they figured out a way to make it so that all this does is make people money?
It took away the power of all the million Encyclopedia Britannica, and it said about the baseball team you like, or
which is going to click to an ad of a shirt that you can buy, or I think it's all so commodified on purpose, obviously, because we did have the potential to do what you thought we were going to do, Obviously, we have that potential, but we're not using it. Like, so what failed? Did we fail, or did somebody else win?
Maybe our machinery is flawed as human beings.
That and somebody else won.
We're still like chimps.
But it's also not computers that came up with the idea to make this a commodity. People did. We did. We did it to ourselves.
I'm not going to chuck this off the roof.
Yeah, but Will Toledo pulled it together, right?
Of course, yes. Good point. It's not all lost. And there are people who aren't paying as much attention to this stupid thing for vanity reasons.
Yeah. But maybe
They just don't get a lot of airtime.
but maybe because they're not good at making things. And he
Yeah.
knows. I mean, he's an artist guy.
Right.
He's actually good.
Right.
So maybe he's able to handle that. But the rest of us unwashed masses.
Yeah, in his case, Bandcamp, right, led
Right.
him to salvation, right?
That's right.
And a record deal. Yeah.
That's right. He could have been, if it was in the 90s, he could have been toiling away at Canal Street Tavern in Dayton, Ohio for 3 or 4 years. And it would have been everybody's favorite band in town, and no one would have seen him. You know what I mean? So,
Or broken out of that, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Depends.
they all broke out of it, right?
But I don't feel there's any moment of the album where he kind of breaks the mood and makes me feel the generation gap. Like I feel with him lyrically the whole time. You would think at some point he'd make some reference to, I don't know, Marvel or something, and it would just like,
Right.
break the mood, but it doesn't, right?
No, you're right. He's removed all of those landmarks.
Yeah.
And it's just about the truth, the
Yeah.
thing
Being
we've all
a
been,
human being.
thing we've all been through.
Being uncomfortable and being in love and all this stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of it's about drinking, right? So how bad was this guy's condition? Do you know, or is he just writing about it?
No, a lot of it is about like the dark side of alcohol. And yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if he then got sober. I don't know anything about that.
It could also be writing from a character. Like, it could be one of those people that's so good at, Dave, I don't know if you are, but I just write about myself all the time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There are those people that can envision other worlds or other versions of themselves where they are different than them. I think they're pretty talented.
Yeah, he
He's
might
like,
be,
like a reporter of yourself, you know what I mean? Like, he could be that guy too.
I don't get that feeling. I get the feeling
He's
he's talking
reporting on
about himself. Yeah. Yeah, it feels very personal. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I wish I would have looked that up.
Okay, we were going to do a bit of a lyric deep dive on this song, 1937 State Park lyrics. Yeah, Chris, take it away.
I'm not sure what 1937 has to do with it. Or if there's an event that happened in 1937 and he's drawing this from.
Or it's an address.
Or it's an address in where's he from? Virginia or
Yeah.
something. But I feel like this song kind of, certainly the chorus, and we'll listen to it in a minute, sums up the kind of theme for the whole record. He's vulnerable and but then gets mad at people for seeing him be vulnerable, even though he's singing it. So he's a flawed person. He's a flawed narrator. And what's the ending part of that? Oh, and he's kind of tough about it. But then when the cops rough him up, he cries walking home. So he's not that tough about it. It's just really endearing, and even kind of Holden Caulfield-y, I think.
Sure.
Maybe I haven't seen that before. He's kind of a Holden Caulfield guy. Isn't he? Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, that's very much that. I didn't want you to hear the shake in my voice. My pain is my own, and then I'm gonna cry walking down the street. Yeah, that's him. That's
And he's singing this on a record full of, like you said, open wounds.
yeah. I'm not gonna show it to Phoebe, but I'm gonna show the rest of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because when your voice is shaking, why?
You're crying.
You're
so overcome.
You're so angry. You're so nervous. You're so sad. Whatever, and your voice betrays you, right? Like,
Right. Look away.
Yeah. You might think you're holding it together, but your physical parts betray you.
The music in the song, he really, I think, echoes the lyrics. They're really tied together. It's very like halting. The riff is halting until the big chorus. Yeah. That's what I got, Dave.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like, remember what I said about he doesn't say anything to like break the mood and make you feel the generation gap. Like he doesn't, refer to, I don't know, Taylor Swift or something, like just to do anything that would make me feel distant from it. And actually the opposite, the one cultural reference in here is like Air Jordans. Like that's like from my childhood, our childhood. Well, I guess continued childhood, but it's right. High school teen dream dies in the hospital, leaves behind a journal and a pair of Air Jordans. Lyrics of popular rock ballads changed to include his name.
The last line is everything, right?
Well, that's the memorial, right? Like these kids.
No, in his journal, he's writing rock lyrics and replacing the name of.
Got it.
To include his own name.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Sherry.
Oh, Sherry's with the girl.
Gary.
Yeah, right, whatever.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah.
He mentions again, it ain't no pair of Air Jordans. Oh, is this the song with the xylophone in?
Okay, yeah, the solo in the middle of it is there.
Yeah, that's a killer track. Cool thing. Shall we play that going out, kids?
Do it. Let's do it. Thanks, Dave. You rule.
That's track 7, 1937, State Park. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for viewing. This has been episode 72 of Blown Speakers. Thanks to our special guests, the Likes, coming in from Chicago. Yeah. And all right.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, Miami.
Hi, Miami. I'll try to get her afterwards. Okay, just a moment.
Should ever have to look at themselves